Hi guys, this is James, and welcome to History for Sleep. Tonight, we're stepping back in time, not to a battlefield or a royal court, but to a place far more intimate and, in many ways, far more brutal. We're going to the north end of Boston in the year 1885. This isn't the picturesque, historic north end of tourism. This is the North End as it was, a dense, crowded, and desperate landscape of brick tenements, teeming with the lives of new arrivals fighting for a foothold in a new world. It is a world of coal smoke and sea salt, of grinding machinery and whispered prayers. The goal of this show has always been to experience history from the inside out. We are not here to observe the lives of others from a safe distance, but to inhabit them, if only for a night. We will try to feel the chill in the air, to smell the thousand competing scents of the city, to understand the deep, bone-wearying exhaustion that defines a day of survival. We're going to trace the arc of a single day, from a cold awakening to an exhausted sleep. So, as you get comfortable and prepare for rest, I invite you to join me on this journey. If you enjoy what we do here, a simple like or a subscription helps immensely. And I always love to see where you're listening from. So feel free to leave a comment and say hello. It's a small way for us to feel a sense of community across time and distance, much like the people we'll be living alongside tonight. All right, let's get into it. Let your own bed become a distant memory. Let the sounds of your world fade away. We are no longer here. We are there. Here we go. The cold comes first. It is not the clean, crisp cold of an open field, but a damp, penetrating chill that seems to seep from the very bones of the building. It lives in the thin mattress beneath you, a lumpy landscape of packed straw or old rags that has long since surrendered any pretense of comfort. It clings to the rough wool of the single blanket you share, a blanket that smells of dust and sleep and the faint, sour scent of other bodies. Then come the smells. They are the true architecture of this place, more solid than the crumbling brick and mortar. There is the foundational odor of damp earth and rot from the cellar, a constant, low note of decay. Layered over this is the sharp, greasy scent of stale cabbage and boiled potatoes, the ghosts of 1,000 meager meals. The air is thick with the fine, gritty dust of coal smoke that finds its way through every crack in the window frame, mingling with the ever-present sourness of unwashed humanity and the faint, ammoniac tang from the privy down the hall, or worse, in the yard. You breathe it in, not because you want to, but because it is the only air there is. It is the air of life here. The sounds follow, a hesitant chorus heralding a day you are not ready to face. A deep, hacking cough from the room across the narrow hall, a sound so common it is almost part of the silence. A baby begins to cry somewhere on the floor below, a thin, reedy wail that speaks of hunger or cold. From the street, 5 stories down, comes the first rumble of an iron-shod wheel on cobblestone, a drayman starting his day before the sun. The sound is a promise, a threat. The world is waking up, and it will not wait for you. You lie perfectly still, a small act of rebellion. You keep your eyes shut tight against the gray light that filters through the single, grimy window pane. To open them is to admit defeat, to accept the reality of the room. This tiny space, no bigger than a generous pantry back home, is not just your bedroom. It is the kitchen, the parlor, the entire world for you. Your younger sister, Anna, who lies curled beside you, and the Donahue family, a mother, a father, and 3 small children, who occupy the other corner. 7 souls breathing the same exhausted air. Anna stirs, her small body shivering as she burrows closer to your warmth. Her breath is a warm puff against your shoulder. You are 19, but in these moments, holding your sister, you feel ancient. You have been in this city, this country, for 6 months. 6 months that feel like a lifetime. You are Mary, or maybe you are Bridget, or Catherine. Your name does not matter as much as your function. You are a worker, a survivor. You are what this city consumes to fuel its growth. You came from a place of green hills and endless sky, a place you can barely summon in your mind anymore without a sharp, physical ache in your chest. You feel the familiar stiffness in your back, the deep ache in your feet that never truly goes away. It is the body's memory of yesterday's labor, and the day before that, and the day before that. Your hands, resting on the blanket, are rough. The skin on your knuckles is chapped and red. And there is a permanent line of grime etched into the bed of your fingernails that no amount of scrubbing with cold water can erase. These are not the hands of the girl who left home. You wonder, in a fleeting, terrifying moment, if that girl would recognize you now. Does she remember you? Do you remember you? Mrs. Donahue is moving in the far corner. You hear the rustle of her dress, the soft, weary sigh as she sits up on her own makeshift bed. The floorboards creak under her weight. That is the true signal. The day has begun. Your small rebellion is over. You cannot afford the luxury of another minute of stillness. Time, here, is not your own. It belongs to the factory, to the landlord, to the gnawing hunger in your belly. With a groan that is part pain and part resignation, you force your eyes open. The room swims into focus, a study in shades of gray and brown. The plaster on the walls is cracked and stained with watermarks that look like maps of unknown continents. A rope is strung from one wall to another, hung with the family's meager laundry, limp and damp in the cold air. In the corner, a small, pot-bellied stove stands cold and silent. There is no fuel to spare for a morning fire. Warmth is a luxury for the evening, and only then if the day has been good. You have to rise. The act itself is a form of labor. First, you push yourself up on your elbows, your muscles protesting with a series of sharp complaints. The cold air hits your face and arms, a physical shock. You swing your legs over the side of the mattress, your bare feet hesitating for a moment before they touch the splintery, frigid floorboards. The contact sends a jolt up your spine. It is a daily baptism of cold, a reminder of where you are. You stand, unsteady for a moment, your body a collection of aches and stiffness. Your dress, the same one you wore yesterday and the day before, is crumpled on a nail on the wall. You pull it on over your thin chemise. The fabric is coarse and smells of sweat and the factory. There is no privacy here. You dress in the semi-darkness, your back to the Donahue family, a small, unspoken courtesy in a world with no walls. Anna is awake now, her eyes watching you. They are large and dark in her pale face. She does not complain. She has learned, as you have, that complaints are a waste of precious energy. You give her a small, tight smile that you hope is reassuring, but your face feels stiff and used to the expression. Get dressed, you whisper. Your voice is a croak. Your first chore is water. It is always water. You take the dented tin bucket from beside the door. The handle is icy cold against your fingers. You slip your feet into your worn leather shoes. There are holes in the soles, which you have patched with scraps of cloth and paper, but you know they will be useless against the damp of the streets. Every step outside will be a fresh reminder of the cold. Opening the door to the hallway is to exchange one set of bad smells for another. Here, the scent of the privy is stronger, mixed with the odor of unemptied chamber pots and a cloying sweetness that might be decay or cheap perfume. It is impossible to tell. The hall is dark, a narrow canyon of closed doors behind which you can hear the sounds of other families beginning the same reluctant ritual. A man clears his throat with a wet, rattling sound. A woman speaks in hushed, urgent Italian. You make your way down the 5 flights of stairs. The wooden steps are worn into smooth, concave troughs in the center from the passage of countless feet. You hold onto the grimy, sticky railing to keep your balance in the gloom. The stairwell acts as a chimney, funneling the cold air and the noise from the street below. With each floor you descend, the sounds of the city grow louder. The water pump is in the small, brick-paved yard behind the tenement. The yard is a squalid square of mud and refuse, hemmed in on all sides by the towering, blind-eyed walls of other buildings. A line has already formed. 3 other women and a young boy stand shivering, buckets in hand. They nod at you, a silent acknowledgement of your shared misery. There is no conversation. Words are too much effort. A mainstream historical fact that often surprises people is the sheer physicality of obtaining water in a 19th century city slum. While affluent neighborhoods might have had plumbing directly piped into their homes, the vast majority of the urban poor relied on a single communal source, a pump in a yard, a hydrant on a street corner. This meant that every drop of water for drinking, cooking, and the rare act of washing had to be physically hauled, often up multiple flights of stairs. It was a relentless, back-breaking chore, primarily performed by women and children. When it is your turn, you place your bucket under the spout and begin to work the long iron handle. It is stiff and heavy, and your shoulder protests with each upward pull and downward thrust. Squeak, clank, gush, squeak, clank, gush. The rhythm is hypnotic, mindless. Cold, clear water splashes into the bucket. For a moment, you focus on it, the only clean thing in this entire landscape. It is a small, fleeting miracle. The bucket is heavy. Carrying it back up the 5 flights of stairs is a slow, torturous process. You take one step at a time, your arms straining, the muscles in your back screaming. The cold metal handle digs into your palm. Water sloshes over the rim, soaking the hem of your dress and your already damp shoes. You pause on each landing, your chest heaving, your breath coming in white puffs. This is the price of a drink. This is the price of washing your face. Back in the room, the water is treated like treasure. You pour a small amount into a basin for washing. You and Anna take turns splashing the icy water on your faces and hands. It is so cold it makes your teeth ache, but it helps to wake you, to scrub away the thinnest layer of grime and sleep. The rest of the water goes into the kettle for the morning's coffee. Breakfast is a ritual of stark necessity. Mrs. Donahue has managed to light a small fire in the stove, using a few precious scraps of wood and a handful of cold dust scavenged from the street. The room fills with smoke before it finds its way up the faulty flue. You huddle around it, not for warmth, but for the flame itself. You break off a piece of a dense, dark loaf of bread. It is a day old and tastes vaguely of sawdust. This is your breakfast. You dip it into your cup of coffee, a bitter, watery brew made from roasted chicory and perhaps a few exhausted, reused coffee grounds. It is hot, and that is its primary virtue. The heat spreads through your chest, a temporary truce against the cold that has settled deep in your bones. A quirky detail of urban working-class diets in this era was the prevalence of coffee substitutes like chicory. Real coffee was an expensive luxury. Roasted and ground chicory root provided a similar dark color and bitter taste at a fraction of the cost. It contained no caffeine, but the hot, stimulating bitterness was enough to create the illusion of a proper morning beverage, a psychological trick to help fortify oneself for the day ahead. You eat quickly, mechanically. You do not taste the bread. You do not savor the hot liquid. You consume fuel. Around you, the Donahue children are eating their own meager portions of bread, silent and watchful. Mr. Donahue is already gone, off to the docks to try and get a day's work as a stevedore. There is a constant, low-level anxiety in the room, the unspoken fear that he will not be chosen, that there will be no pay at the end of the day. Your job at the factory, as grueling as it is a certainty. You are, in a strange way, the lucky one. The last of the bread is gone. The last of the chicory water is drained. It is time. You pull on a thin, patched shawl, your only defense against the November wind. You look at Anna, who will spend her day in the room, helping Mrs. Donahue with her piecework, sewing cuffs onto shirts for a few cents a dozen. She is too young for the factory, a fact for which you are both terrified and grateful. You touch her cheek. It is still soft. You want to keep it that way, but you know you cannot. This city grinds everything soft into hardness. Be good, you say? She nods, her eyes wide. You turn and leave the room, closing the door on its smoky, cabbage-scented air. You descend the 5 flights of stairs again, this time unburdened by water, but weighted down by the day ahead. The front door of the tenement opens directly onto the street, and you step out into the roaring, chaotic river of the north in morning. The day's main journey begins. It is not a journey of miles, but of senses. The moment you step out of the tenement, the city assaults you. The air, which seems so foul inside, is somehow worse out here. It is a thick, tangible stew of smells. The sharp, salty tang of the nearby harbor battles with the rich, acrid smell of coal smoke pouring from 1,000 chimneys. The street is a minefield of horse manure, the odor pungent and unavoidable. From a nearby bakery, the warm, yeasty scent of bread is an almost painful luxury, a reminder of food you cannot afford. A fishmonger pushes a cart, calling out his wares, leaving a trail of oceanic funk in his wake. The noise is a physical force. The clatter of horseshoes on uneven cobblestones, the grinding screech of iron wheels, the distant, mournful hoot of a ferry horn from the harbor. Men shout. Vendors hawk their goods in a dozen languages, Children scream and play in the gutters. The city is a great, roaring beast, and you are just one tiny blood cell in its veins. You hunch your shoulders, pull your shawl tighter, and join the current of people flowing towards the factories and workshops. This is your workplace commute, a river of weary bodies, all moving in the same direction. Men in cloth caps with lunch pails, women with shawls pulled over their heads, even children, some no older than 10, their faces old with a premature seriousness. You walk with your head down, your eyes on the treacherous footing of the sidewalk, a broken landscape of uneven flagstones and muddy pits. You do not make eye contact. To do so is to invite trouble or pity, or simply to expend energy you do not have. The preparations for the day's great labor were not yours to make. You do not have equipment to check or animals to yoke. You have only your own body to prepare, and that was done with the cold water and the stale bread. The factory has already made its preparations. The foreman is there. The machines have been oiled. The great steam engine in the basement is already building pressure. Its rhythmic, thumping heartbeat felt through the soles of your shoes, even from a block away. The factory looms at the end of the street, a vast, red brick monolith, 6 stories high. Its windows are dark and grime-caked, staring out like hundreds of vacant eyes. Smoke billows from its tall chimney, a black flag against the gray sky. It is a place without beauty or charm, a building designed for the single purpose of production. It looks like a prison, and in many ways, it is. The signal to start is not a gentle call. It is a shrill, piercing whistle that cuts through the morning din. It is a sound that makes you flinch, no matter how many times you have heard it. It screams urgency. It screams that you are late, even if you are early. It commands you to hurry, to shed the last vestiges of your own time, and submit to the factory's clock. The river of people quickens its pace, funneling through the factory's wide wooden doors. You are swept inside with the tide. The air changes immediately. The chaotic smells of the street are replaced by the singular, overwhelming scent of your work. You work in a candy factory. This is not the sweet, delightful smell of a confectioner's shop. It is the cloying, sickly sweet, and slightly burnt smell of tons of boiling sugar, mixed with the metallic odor of machinery and the damp, sweet smell of human sweat. It coats the back of your throat and clings to your hair and clothes. At the end of the day, you will carry this smell back home with you, an invisible uniform. The first steps inside the workroom are a new kind of sensory shock. The noise. It is a deafening, continuous roar. The thumping of the steam engine is now a physical vibration that runs up your legs and into your chest. The whirring and clanking of belts and gears, the hiss of steam pipes, the rhythmic stamping of cutting machines, it all blends into a single, overwhelming wall of sound. Conversation is impossible. You communicate through nods and gestures, or by shouting directly into someone's ear. You find your place at a long wooden table. This is your station. For the next 11 hours, this small patch of wood will be your entire world. The initial aches of the morning, the pain from the walk, the chill in your bones, they all begin to recede. Not because they are gone, but because they are being replaced by a new set of sensations, a new kind of pain. Your body settles into the familiar, monotonous rhythm of the work. You are a creature of rhythm now. Your job is to wrap hard candies. It is simple, mindless work. A river of small, brightly colored sweets comes down a chute to your left. You take one. You take a small square of waxed paper. You wrap the candy, twist the ends, and place it in a box to your right. Take candy. Take paper. Wrap. Twist. Place. Take candy. Take paper. Wrap. Twist. Place. Your hands begin to move, at first stiffly, then with a growing, practiced speed. They are no longer your hands. They are part of the machine. They are the soft, fleshy gears that the factory cannot yet build from iron. Your mind, for the first hour, tries to fight. It tries to think of other things. It replays the walk to work. It worries about Anna. It remembers a song from home. But the rhythm is relentless. It pulls you under. Take candy. Take paper. Wrap. Twist. Place. The foreman walks the floor, a grim, silent man with a thick mustache and eyes that miss nothing. He does not speak. He does not need to. His presence is enough. A slow worker might get a sharp tap on the shoulder. A dropped box will earn a withering glare. You keep your head down. You focus on the work. You make yourself as small and efficient as possible. Become invisible. Become the rhythm. A mainstream historical fact about factory work in the late 19th century is the concept of the piecework system. Instead of being paid a fixed hourly wage, many workers, especially women in industries like textiles and food processing, were paid by the piece. This meant your earnings were directly tied to your output. A fast worker might earn a livable, if meager, wage. A slow worker, or one who was sick or tired, would not. This system created immense pressure, pitting workers against the clock and their own physical limits, and effectively discouraged any form of rest or break. The sun, a weak, watery disk, has risen fully now, but it makes little difference in here. The gaslights hiss overhead, casting a yellow, flickering glow over the room. The air grows warmer, thicker, more cloying. The sugar dust is everywhere, a fine, sticky powder that settles on your skin and in your lungs. You can feel it on your teeth. An hour passes, then another. The clock on the far wall, the great tyrant of the room, moves with agonizing slowness. But you do not look at it. To watch the clock is to feel every minute pass like an hour. The only way to survive is to surrender to the motion, to let your mind go blank, to become a machine that wraps candy. Take candy. Take paper. Wrap. Twist. Place. Your fingers are nimble, your movements economical. You have become good at this. It is a skill you never wanted, a source of pride you cannot feel. It is simply the key to your survival. The morning grinds on, a blur of color and motion and noise. The endless river of candies, the rustle of waxed paper, the growing weight of the filled boxes. Your shoulders begin to burn. Your back, bent over the table, develops a deep, persistent ache. Your fingers, despite their speed, begin to feel clumsy and numb. But you do not stop. You cannot stop. The chute keeps delivering candy, and the box must be filled. The rhythm is king. Sometime around noon, the great steam engine in the basement sputters and sighs to a halt. The complex web of belts and pulleys overhead slows, and the deafening roar of the workroom fades into an almost shocking silence. The whistle blows again, a single, sharp blast. It is the midday break. The halt of movement is a physical shock. Your body, so accustomed to the continuous rhythm, feels suddenly adrift. Your hands, which have been moving nonstop for 4 hours, hover over the table, trembling slightly. The silence that rushes in is not peaceful. It is filled with the ringing in your ears, the ghost of the machinery's roar. It is a heavy, expectant silence. You straighten up, and a wave of pain washes over you. Your back cracks. Your neck is a knot of tension. Your legs, from standing in one place for so long, feel weak and unsteady. For a moment, you just stand there, letting the feeling return to your limbs, blinking in the sudden stillness. The midday meal is not a leisurely affair. It is a 30-minute window, a brief, functional refueling before the machine starts again. Most workers do not leave the factory floor. You find a space on the floor, leaning against a cool brick wall, away from your workstation. The floor is gritty with sugar dust and grime. Your lunch is the other half of the dark loaf of bread from this morning, wrapped in a piece of cloth. You might have an apple, if the peddler was cheap yesterday, or a small, withered potato you boiled the night before. Today, it is just the bread. You chew it slowly, your jaw aching from the effort. It tastes like nothing, but it fills the hollow space in your stomach. You watch the other women and girls. They sit in small clumps, their faces slack with exhaustion. Some eat, like you, in silence. Others talk in low murmurs, their voices sounding strange and loud in the quiet room. A few simply close their eyes, their heads tilted back against the wall, trying to steal a few precious moments of rest. There is no laughter. The energy for it has been ground out of them. This brief rest period is also a time for maintenance. You see a man with an oil can moving silently among the dormant machines, tending to the gears and joints. A foreman inspects a long leather belt for signs of wear. The factory is being cared for, its body tended to, so it can resume its work. The human bodies are left to fend for themselves. You take a moment for your own maintenance. You flex your fingers, trying to work the stiffness out of them. You rub your lower back, a futile gesture against the deep ache. You look at your hands. The tips of your fingers are raw from the constant twisting of the paper. Small paper cuts, almost invisible, sting with a mixture of sweat and sugar. You know that by the end of the day, they will be bleeding. A quirky historical detail about factory life is the almost complete lack of what we would consider basic amenities. There were no designated break rooms or cafeterias. Workers ate at their stations or on the floor. Access to toilets was often restricted, and fetching a drink of water might be frowned upon as taking time away from production. The environment was designed for the efficiency of the machine, not the comfort of the human. You close your eyes, just for a minute. The image of the candy, the paper, the box, is burned onto the inside of your eyelids. Even in rest, you cannot escape it. You try to think of something else. You try to picture the small cottage you grew up in, the feel of cool, damp grass under your bare feet. But the memory is faint, like a washed-out photograph. It feels like it belongs to someone else's life. The reality of this brick room, the smell of burnt sugar, the deep, resonant ache in your bones. This is what is real now. The 30 minutes pass in what feels like 5. The foreman looks at the clock on the wall. He gives a sharp, wordless nod to the engineer. There is a groaning sound from the basement as the great engine begins to stir. A shudder runs through the building. The belts overhead twitch and begin their slow, inexorable rotation. The whistle shrieks. The break is over. The sound is a physical blow. Your body, having just begun to taste the relief of stillness, protests with every fiber. Getting to your feet requires a conscious act of will. Your legs are stiff, your back screams. You force yourself up, your joints cracking in complaint. It feels like you have aged 20 years in 30 minutes. You walk back to your station. The roar of the machinery swells once more, swallowing the room, swallowing you. The brief respite is over, and its passing makes the return to labor feel even more cruel. The afternoon is beginning, and the afternoon is the honest struggle. It is the long, slow descent into pure, grinding endurance. The environment, which was merely oppressive in the morning, becomes an active antagonist in the afternoon. The air grows heavy and hot. The steam from the cooking vats, combined with the heat from the gaslights and the friction of the machines, turns the workroom into a humid, suffocating box. Sweat trickles down your temples and the back of your neck, pasting your hair to your skin. The sugar dust in the air turns into a sticky film that covers everything. The light from the tall windows begins to fade as the afternoon wears on. The gaslights hiss more loudly, their yellow glow seeming to suck the very oxygen from the air. The world outside your grimy window pane dissolves into a hazy, indistinct twilight. The world inside becomes your only reality. The roar, the heat, the endless, sickly sweet smell. Your physical state degrades. The morning's aches were sharp and distinct. The afternoon's pain is a dull, pervasive throb that infuses your entire body. It is no longer a specific pain in your back or your feet. It is a general state of being. You move beyond pain into a kind of numbness, a state of physical automaticity. Your hands continue their work. Take, wrap, twist, place, but you are no longer consciously directing them. They move of their own accord, driven by muscle memory and the unceasing rhythm of the chute. Your mind, which fought for its freedom in the morning, begins to surrender. It can no longer sustain worry or memory or hope. It seeks only escape. It drifts. For long stretches, you think of nothing at all. You are aware only of the candy in your left hand, the paper in your right, the box filling up. The world shrinks to this tiny, repetitive loop. This is a form of mercy. To think, to feel, would be unbearable. Sometimes, a fragment of a thought breaks through the fog. A snatch of a lullaby your mother used to sing. The face of your sister, Anna, her eyes wide and worried. A sudden, sharp pang of hunger that the dry bread at noon did not satisfy. These thoughts are like sparks in the darkness, flaring up for a moment before being extinguished by the overwhelming monotony. They are dangerous. They remind you that you are a person, not a machine, and that reminder is a form of pain. This is the core of it. This is the truth of the day. It is not a story of heroic struggle or dramatic events. It is a story of grinding, non-heroic endurance. It is the sheer, soul-crushing monotony of performing the same simple task thousands upon thousands of times. The challenge is not to do the work, but to survive the doing of it. Your mind develops calluses, just like your fingers. You learn to shut down the parts of you that feel, that question, that dream. You watch the other girls at your table. Their faces are blank masks. Their eyes are focused on their hands, but they do not seem to be seeing. They are all in the same trance, the same state of suspended animation. You are alone in your bubble of noise and motion, yet you are part of a vast, silent community of endurance. You are all cogs in the same great machine, each turning your small gear, your individual struggle lost in the larger roar. The foreman still patrols the floor, but you barely notice him anymore. His presence is just another part of the oppressive atmosphere, like the heat or the noise. You have become so efficient, so machine-like, that you are beneath his notice. This is the only kind of success that matters here. A mainstream historical fact that often surprises people is the sheer length of the industrial workday. By 1885, some progress had been made in regulating labor, but a 10 or 11-hour day, 6 days a week, was still standard in many industries, especially for unskilled labor. For many, the concept of a weekend did not exist. Life was a relentless cycle of work and sleep, with little time or energy for anything else. The leisure time we take for granted was a hard-won battle fought over many decades. The candy chute jams. The river of sweets suddenly stops. The break in the rhythm is jarring. You look up, your trance broken. A few girls down the line, a young Italian girl you know only as Sophia, has her hand caught in the mechanism. She does not scream. The sound would be lost in the noise anyway. Her face is a mask of white shock, her mouth open in a silent "oh." The foreman is there in an instant. He barks an order, and a man runs to shut down the power to this section of the line. The gears grind to a halt. In the relative quiet, you can hear Sophia begin to sob, a low, animal sound of pain and fear. The foreman and another man work to free her hand. It is a bloody, mangled mess. They lead her away, her arm wrapped in a rag that is already turning dark red. She is crying, not just from pain, but from the knowledge that her job is gone. An injured worker is a useless worker. She will be replaced by tomorrow morning. Her family will have one less wage. The foreman returns. He looks at the rest of you, his face impassive. "Back to work," he shouts, his voice barely rising above the noise of the rest of the factory. The power is restored. The chute begins to deliver candy again. The rhythm resumes. Take candy. Take paper. Wrap. Twist. Place. But the trance is broken. For the rest of the afternoon, you are painfully aware. You are aware of the proximity of the gears to your fingers. You are aware of the fragility of your own body. You are aware of Sophia's empty space at the table. The fear is a cold knot in your stomach. It sharpens your focus. Your movements become more deliberate, less automatic. The numbness is gone, replaced by a low, humming anxiety. The last hours of the day are the longest. The heat, the noise, the ache in your body, it all seems to intensify. Every muscle screams for release. Your mind begs for silence. You feel a desperate, primal urge to just stop, to stand up and walk out of this roaring, suffocating hell. But you cannot. The rent is due. Anna needs to eat. So you continue. Take candy. Take paper. Wrap. Twist. Place. One more. And then one more. You do not think about the end of the day. You think only of the next candy. That is the only way to endure. The gaslights seem to burn brighter, hotter, as the last vestiges of daylight die outside. The factory becomes a self-contained world of yellow light and black shadow, a churning, roaring island in the sea of the night. Your vision blurs. The brightly colored candies merge into a single, shimmering stream. Your hands are no longer your own. They are raw, aching tools that belong to the factory. You are no longer Mary or Bridget or Catherine. You are Station 12. You are a pair of hands. You are the rhythm. And you wait, with every cell of your being, for the whistle to blow. And then it does. A long, sustained shriek that slices through the roar. It is a sound of liberation. A sound of judgment. The day is done. The great engine sighs its last, and the machinery spins down. The silence that follows is profound, almost holy. It is a physical presence, pressing in on you, filling the vast space that the noise once occupied. For a moment, no one moves. A collective, silent exhalation seems to pass through the room. It is the feeling of a great weight being lifted from your chest. You can breathe again. Your reaction is a tangle of conflicting sensations. There is the profound, soul-deep relief of stopping. The simple, beautiful fact that you do not have to wrap another candy. But this relief is immediately followed by the dawning realization of the evening's chores. The day's labor is not truly over. It has only changed form. And as the adrenaline of the work fades, the pain returns with a vengeance. You straighten your back, and this time the pain is so sharp it makes you gasp. Your entire body feels like one enormous bruise. You look down at your hands. They are trembling, the fingers stained with the dye from the candies, the tips raw and crisscrossed with tiny, stinging cuts. You slowly, deliberately, clench them into fists, and then unclench them, trying to bring feeling back into the numb digits. The exodus from the factory is not a jubilant rush. It is a slow, shuffling procession of exhausted bodies. You join the tide, your legs stiff and clumsy. You pass the foreman at the door. He nods curtly as you pass. It is not a sign of approval, merely an acknowledgement that you have completed your contracted servitude for the day. Stepping out of the factory and into the night air is another sensory jolt. The air is cold now, truly cold, and the shock of it on your hot, sweaty skin makes you shiver. But it is fresh. It is free of the cloying sweetness of sugar and the metallic tang of machinery. You take a deep, greedy breath, even though the air is still thick with the city's usual cocktail of coal smoke and refuse. It feels like freedom. The streets are dark, lit only by the intermittent glow of gas streetlights and the yellow squares of light from tenement windows. The crowds are different from the morning. The purposeful rush has been replaced by a weary shuffle. The noise is more subdued, a low murmur of tired voices, the clatter of a late-running cart, the distant sound of a Salvation Army cornet playing a melancholy hymn. Your journey home is a slow, painful march. Every step on the hard, uneven pavement sends a shockwave of pain up your legs. Your feet, trapped in damp shoes for 11 hours, burn and ache. You are just one of 1,000 shadows moving through the dark, narrow streets. Each shadow a universe of exhaustion and pain. You are anonymous in your suffering. The arrival at your tenement building is not a joyful homecoming. The 5-story brick facade looks even more grim and forbidding at night. It is simply the place where the day's next set of labors begins. You push open the heavy door and are greeted by the familiar wall of smells. Boiled cabbage, dampness, humanity. The climb up the 5 flights of stairs is an epic journey, a mountain to be scaled at the end of an already impossible day. You pull yourself up by the rickety handrail, your legs feeling like lead. When you finally reach your door and push it open, a wave of warm, smoky air washes over you. It is not pleasant, but it is better than the biting cold of the stairwell. A single oil lamp burns on the table, casting long, dancing shadows. The room is crowded and loud. The Donahue children are crying. Mrs. Donahue is trying to cook on the small stove, which fills the room with greasy smoke. Anna runs to you, her face lighting up. This is the one, pure, uncomplicated moment of the day. She throws her arms around your waist, and you hug her back, burying your face in her hair. She smells of the room, of smoke and cooked vegetables, but she is warm and real. "You're home," she says. "I'm home," you repeat, the words feeling strange in your mouth. But there is no time to rest. The evening chores begin immediately. The water bucket is nearly empty again. It will need to be refilled for the morning. That means another trip down 5 flights of stairs and another agonizing trip back up. You hand your meager pay for the day, a few coins you keep tied in a corner of your handkerchief, to Mrs. Donahue for the rent and food money. Then begins the complex negotiation of the evening meal. You and Mrs. Donahue share the stove. Tonight's meal is potatoes, boiled until they are soft, and a piece of salt pork, fried to render its precious fat. The smell of the frying pork fills the tiny room, a rich, savory scent that makes your stomach clench with hunger. A historical aside, the evening meal for the urban poor was often the only substantial, hot meal of the day. It was still simple and monotonous, based on cheap, filling staples like potatoes, bread, and cabbage, but the act of cooking and eating a hot meal provided a crucial psychological comfort, a marker that the workday was truly over and a small pocket of family time could be carved out of the evening. While the potatoes boil, you perform the most important chore of the evening, tending to your body. You take off your shoes and stockings. Your feet are a mess. They are pale and wrinkled from the damp, with angry red marks where the worn leather has rubbed. Blisters have formed on your heels. You take the basin of water Anna fetched for you and soak them. The cold water is a blessed relief, a searing, exquisite pleasure that makes you want to cry out. You clean the blisters carefully with a rag and a bit of soap, a precious commodity. You must care for your feet. They are your transportation. They are essential to your livelihood. If you cannot walk, you cannot work. You eat your meal, sitting on the edge of your mattress. You share a plate with Anna. You eat slowly, deliberately, making the small portion last. The boiled potatoes are bland, but the salty, fatty pork is delicious, a burst of flavor in a day of monotony. You make sure Anna gets the bigger share of the meat. After the meal, a brief period of quiet settles over the room. The Donahue children have finally fallen asleep in a heap on their mattress. Mr. Donahue has returned from the docks, his face grim. He did not get a full day's work. There is a heavy silence between him and his wife. In this small, shared space, their anxiety is a tangible thing that you can feel in the air. Sometimes, in the evenings, there is music. Someone on a lower floor might play a fiddle, a sad, lively tune from the old country that drifts up the stairwell. Or you might hear the sound of singing, a hymn or a ballad. These small expressions of art and memory are acts of defiance, a refusal to be completely crushed by the city's weight. Tonight, there is only the sound of tired breathing and the distant, muffled roar of the city, which never truly sleeps. You sit with Anna, your arm around her shoulder. She tells you about her day, about the shirts she helped sew, about a fight between two boys in the yard. You listen, nodding, your mind feeling slow and thick, like mud. You are too tired to speak much. Your presence is what matters. This is the community of the evening. It is not one of joyous gatherings, but of shared, weary silence. It is the unspoken understanding between you and Mrs. Donahue as you move around each other in the tiny space. It is the nod from a neighbor on the stairs. It is the knowledge that behind every door, a similar scene of exhaustion and quiet persistence is playing out. You are all in this together, and that knowledge is a small, cold comfort. The final preparations for the night are simple and swift. There is little to prepare. Mrs. Donahue banks the embers in the stove, preserving them for the morning. You and Anna use the last of the day's water to wash your faces. You lay out your meager bedding, the thin mattress, and the single wool blanket. The room is still warm from the stove, but you know the heat will bleed out into the night, and by morning, the deep, damp cold will have returned. The day is unwinding. The rhythms of work are being replaced by the rhythms of rest. You help Anna get settled, pulling the rough blanket up to her chin. Her eyes are already closed, her face peaceful in the dim lamplight. She is resilient. Children are. You pray she can hold on to that resilience. Finally, it is your turn. You lie down. The act of lying down, of letting your body go limp, is not the pure relief you have been craving all day. It is, instead, a moment of reckoning. As your muscles relax, the aches and pains that were held at bay by motion and tension return with full force. Your back, your neck, your feet, your hands, every part of you sings with a dull, throbbing pain. The lumpy mattress, which offers no real comfort, seems to push back against your sorest points. The hardness and cold of your sleeping place are magnified. You are acutely aware of every lump, every draft. You close your eyes. The darkness behind your eyelids is not peaceful. It is filled with the afterimages of the day, the endless stream of candies, the blur of your own hands, the white, shocked face of Sophia as they led her away. The roar of the machinery still echoes in your ears, a phantom noise that may never fully leave. Your mind, free from the hypnotic rhythm of work, begins to race. It is a tired, anxious carousel of thoughts. You worry about the rent. Did you earn enough today? Will Mr. Donahue find work tomorrow? The fear of being thrown out on the street is a constant, low-grade fever. You worry about food. The potatoes are almost gone. The bread is stale. Hunger is a patient wolf, always circling. You worry about Anna. Is she warm enough? Is that a cough you hear from her in her sleep? The fear of sickness is the greatest fear of all. In these crowded rooms, disease can spread like fire. A simple cold can turn into pneumonia. You have seen it happen. You have seen the small coffins. You push the thought away. It is too terrible to contemplate. Your mind drifts to the past, to the life you left behind. A wave of nostalgia, so sharp it feels like grief, washes over you. You remember the smell of clean rain on a dirt road, the sound of wind in the trees, the vast, open sky. It feels like a dream you once had. Was that life real? Was it really you who lived it? The contrast between that memory and the reality of this room, the smells, the sounds, the crushing weight of the city, is a physical pain in your chest. You think of the sheer scale of the struggle. This was just one day. Tomorrow will be the same. And the day after that. And the day after that. An endless chain of identical days stretching out before you. A bleak, featureless horizon. How do you keep going? How do you face another morning? The question is too big. It threatens to crush you. You pull your focus back. You think only of tomorrow. Just get through tomorrow. That is all you can manage. The thoughts begin to fragment, to lose their sharp edges. The anxiety softens into a dull, humming dread. The pain in your body dissolves into a general heaviness. Your breathing deepens, finding a slow, steady rhythm. The sounds from the street below, the creaks and groans of the old building, the soft breathing of your sister beside you, they all begin to merge into a single, low drone. This is the moment of surrender. You are letting go. You are giving up the fight of consciousness and letting the deep, dark tide of exhaustion pull you under. It is a merciful release. Sleep is not a gentle rest. It is a form of temporary death, a necessary oblivion that allows you to rise and face the same struggle again tomorrow. And as you drift, as the boundary between your thoughts and the encroaching darkness begins to blur, the perspective shifts. You are one soul in a city of 1,000,000 souls, each curled up in their own small space, each surrendering to the night. You are one body in a tenement of 100 bodies, a vast, silent congregation of the exhausted. Your small, specific pain, your individual fear, is part of a much larger story. This is the human rhythm, as old as time itself. The rhythm of labor and rest, of struggle and surrender. For thousands of years, people have worked until their bodies screamed for mercy, and then they have laid down their heads to sleep. They have endured the heat and the cold, the hunger and the fear. They have found a way to rise the next morning and do it all again. Your struggle is not unique. It is the timeless, universal story of endurance. You are part of a long, unbroken chain of tired bodies and resilient spirits. Your last conscious thought is not a thought at all. It is a feeling. It is the feeling of falling. You are falling into a deep, dreamless well of blackness. There are no memories here, no anxieties. There is only the profound, bottomless peace of non-being. The factory is gone. The city is gone. The pain is gone. You are gone. You have made it through. You have survived one more day. And in the deep, silent dark, your body begins the slow, secret work of mending itself, gathering just enough strength to face the morning. And now, you fall asleep too. You have walked the miles. You have felt the aches. You have breathed the air. You have earned this rest. Let the story of this day be a bridge to your own peace. Let the silence of that tenement room merge with the quiet of your own. There is no factory whistle to wake you. There is only the promise of a long and peaceful night. Good night. Sweet dreams.